Good morning. It's another fresh edition of your program on Leadership Television Inside Nigeria. Today is Thursday, 5 2024, and my name is Winifred Ubebo, your host on the program. On today's program, we are looking at front headline stories of some select newspapers, including Nigeria's most influential newspaper, Leadership. Leadership's leading story this Thursday says still on tax reform base. Actually, CSOs kick as federal government blames opposition on ignorance. Tax reform bills. CSOs, that is civil society organizations, kick as federal government blames opposition on ignorance. Senate suspends legislation to meet presidential term. And beneath that leading story, we have a picture of Nyesom Wike, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Senator David Jinkuta, and the Senator Mao Oambuwa, Chairman House Committee on Federal Capital Territory, Aliu Betara, at the flag off of the Kabusa Keti Road in Abuja Municipal Area Council, Ahmad, in Abuja yesterday. Still on leadership newspaper, ACF leaves suspension on chairman, that is Arewa Consultative Forum leaves suspension on chairman. No staff forced on early retirement, CBN. This is a developing story coming on the heels of the alleged report that CBN was said to retire about 1,000, no, sack about 1,000 staff. However, on today's leadership and other papers we have on our menu, CBN has come out to say that no staff is being forced on to retire early. Zenith Bank wins Bank of the Year award as Senate tax security agencies on arms proliferation. Bandits plant explosives along Zamfara Road, K12. And on the business bourse, we have manufacturers' economic confidence index drops in third quarter. Manufacturers' economic confidence index drops in third quarter. And above the masthead of leadership, UNICEF lost Jigawa's 30% budget allocation to education. Abbas says we should move beyond women inclusion by 2027. Talking about the Speaker of the House of Representatives, we should move beyond women inclusion by 2027. And with that, we move to the page 3 of the paper where we have our stand. Today's stand is on states and revenue generation. States and revenue generation. The current state of revenue generation in the country is giving Nigerians genuine cause for concern. A recent report revealed that only two states, Lagos and Rivers, are economically viable. This means the remaining 34 states heavily depend on monthly federal government allocations to pay salaries and carry out other essential activities. This is a worrying trend that must be addressed urgently. According to the latest data released by the National Bureau of Statistics (NBS), the 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory (FCT) generated 2.43 trillion naira internally in 2023. The internally generated revenue (IGRO) for 2023 is 26.03%, higher than the 1.93 trillion naira recorded in 2022. However, the data shows that only two states and the FCT are economically viable to cover their spending. These are paragraphs from today's stand on leadership newspaper, states and revenue generation. From our stand, we move briskly to the back page of the paper where we have Being Blunt with Muazu Elize. Muazu is writing on tax bills and EFCC's largest recovery. Tax bills and EFCC's largest recovery. In quote, why tax reform is undeniably essential for Nigeria, its implementation must be approached with caution. Quote from the back page, tax bills and EFCC's largest recovery. It's on this note we conclude the review of front headline stories, the editorial, the back page, and of course the side stories on leadership newspaper today. For more, log on to the website of leadership, www.leadership.ng. From leadership, we move to the next paper we have on our menu, and that is the Punch. The Punch also has main cover story on tax reform bills. It says Senate suspends debate, panel meets AGF today. Senate constitutes special committee to address concerns. Presidency urges urgent passage. Tax reform, Senate suspends debate, panel meets AGF today. Senate constitutes special committee to address concerns. Presidency urges urgent passage. We have the photos of Chief of Air Staff Air Marshal Hassan Abubakar and representative of the Minister of Defence Dr. Ibrahim Kana at the graduation of the Nigerian Air Force pilots after decoration of the pilots at the training operations and safety seminar in Abuja yesterday. Zenith Bank wins FT's Bank of the Year award. Kogi vows tough actions against councillor, orders kidnappers. Says kid as boss runs into bandits explosive in Zamfara. Beside the masthead of the Punch, Naira devaluation raises foreign debt by 30 trillion naira, according to reports. And above the masthead of the Punch, fuel imports hit 2.3 billion litres despite local production. Senate summons Keyamo over flight delays orders. Federal government fires Togo Benin degree holders from MDAs. The story runs on page 2 of the Punch. Federal government fires Togo Benin degree holders from MDAs. Let's get a snippet from that story. The federal government has fired some civil servants with degrees from private tertiary institutions in Benin Republic and Togo, the Punch reports. The directive affected federal workers who graduated from the institutions from 2017 to date. The Director of Information and Public Relations in the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Segun Imohiosen, confirmed the development to one of our correspondents on Wednesday. In August, the federal government announced that only 8 universities had been accredited to award degrees to Nigerians in Togo and Benin Republic. This followed an undercover investigation report in which a daily Nigerian journalist acquired a degree from a university in Benin Republic in 2 months and used it to participate in the National Youth Service Corps scheme. Following the report, the government banned the accreditation and evaluation of degrees from tertiary institutions in Benin Republic and Togo. The federal government had also set up an inter-ministerial investigative committee on degree certificate milling to probe the activities of certificate racketeers. These are paragraphs from that headline story today on the Punch newspaper. Federal government fires Togo, Benin Republic degree holders from MDAs. And with that, we conclude review of front headline stories on the Punch today. For more, log on to the website of the Punch as we go over to the next paper we have on our lineup, and that is Vanguard. Vanguard is also still on tax reform bills, while Senate suspended further legislative action, sets up a 10-man committee to liaise with federal government orders. Committee to meet AGF today. Article Labour Party welcomes Senate's decision. Senate's decision embodies spirit of democratic governance, CUPP. We are trying to protect those now opposing reform, Oyedele. I'll take that again. Tax reform bills, why Senate suspended further legislative action, sets up a 10-man committee to liaise with federal government orders. Committee to meet AGF today. Article Labour Party welcomes Senate's decision. Senate's decision embodies spirit of democratic governance, CUPP. We are trying to protect those now opposing reform, Oyedele. Beneath that headline story, polls Osun or your people will teach APC a lesson, Makinde. Polls Osun or your people will teach APC a lesson, Makinde. And in sports, Galatasaray president. No one will force Osimhen to leave us. Alleged defamation. Ekiti court remands Farotimi as obedience threatened protest. Alleged defamation. Ekiti court remands Farotimi as obedience threatened protest. And the last story on the masthead of Vanguard. Shell awards $1.98 billion contracts to indigenous firms. And with that, we conclude front headlines review on Vanguard newspaper. For more, log on to the website of Vanguard newspaper. And the next paper on our lineup today is This Day. This Day says Oyedele derivation formula will reduce inequitable resource distribution, still on tax reform. Oyedele derivation formula will reduce inequitable resource distribution, says tax reform bill is necessary to end struggles by Nigeria's poorest. Insists consultants won't be involved in collection. Senate suspends further action on public hearing, sets up elders committee to douse tension. The chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms, Taiwo Oyedele, yesterday argued that the derivation formula in the tax reform will reduce inequitable distribution of resources. He stated that some states pushing back on the proposed 60% value-added tax (VAT) derivation formula may end up with 100% if the courts eventually decide so. The Senate proceeded to set up a 10-member committee of elders led by Senate Minority Leader Abba Moro to meet with Attorney General of the Federation's team on areas of concerns in the bills to douse the lingering tension of the tax reform. Two paragraphs from that leading story on tax reform on this day newspaper. And above that, we have Zenith Bank emerges Bank of the Year Nigeria in the Banker Awards 2024. South Africa targets Nigeria's lithium for electric vehicle revolution. The story runs on page 32 of This Day newspaper. And with that, we conclude front headline stories review on This Day. For more, log on to the website of This Day newspaper. From This Day, we move over to the last paper on our menu this Thursday, and it is The Guardian. The Guardian says it has a head story as its main headline story today, Thursday, December 5, 2024. Antimicrobial Awareness Week. Antibiotics abuse worsens drug resistance. Claims 64,500 lives yearly. Antibiotics abuse worsens drug resistance, claims 64,500 lives yearly. And beneath that, we have causes of antibiotic resistance. We have overprescribing of antibiotics, patients not finishing their treatment, overuse of antibiotics in livestock and fish farming, poor infection control in hospitals and clinics, lack of hygiene and poor sanitation, lack of new antibiotics being developed. And underneath that, we have 86.5% of Nigerians use non-prescribed antibiotics, self-medicate. 1 in 5 deaths recorded among under 5. Over 1.2 million Nigerians suffer antimicrobial resistance yearly. Scourge affects 5 million, over 700,000 deaths globally, according to World Health Organization (WHO). These are illustrations beneath that headline story on The Guardian this morning. Antibiotics abuse worsens drug resistance, claims 64,500 lives yearly. Tax reform bill, Senate bans to pressure, suspends hearings. Oyo Osun residents will never allow APC back in power, Makinde says. Federal government earns 2.78 trillion naira taxes from telecoms tech companies in first half. Court remands Faruti Miti December 10 for alleged defamation. While NIN has not been effective in stemming kidnapping. MacArthur orders lament loss of $200 billion to corruption in Nigeria. And with that, before we close, there's another story gracing the cover of The Guardian. NNPCL forced Falana insists Port Harcourt refinery producing fuel. With that, we bring to a close the review of front headline stories on The Guardian. For more, log on to the website www.guardian.ng. It's also on that note we bring to a close today's program Inside Nigeria on Leadership Television. Don't forget to join us same time, same station for another fresh edition of the program. My name is Winifred Ugwebo. Thanks once again for joining us.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have